Thank you, Ulf. Hello, everyone. Hope you all had a good start to the new year. Today, we're going to have a look at what we have implemented and delivered in last quarter of 2025, finishing with the release of the BIS version 6.7.182. So as always, we're looking at a delivery of about 3 months worth of enhancements, fixes, and new features. We have prepared 2 demos for today. We're primarily going to go through your 2 mostly used apps, the Master Data Navigator, what have we enhanced here, as well as the Process Monitor. Again, what enhancements are available here now. Let me start with our pillar user experience. What have we now released in the user interface for our various apps? We've made enhancements in the Process Monitor, in and around the search wizard, so that you're able to do exclusion searches, basically not equals, also searches against the file size and file size ranges. We're adding more help through auto-completion in the search fields and the values applicable to certain filters. We've added a new app that allows you to monitor multiple logical systems in a single dashboard. We also adding more information about the total row and result count. We've added a retry for the in-sequence processing to make that more robust and reduce operational errors and cost. In the Master Data Navigator, we've made enhancements around the entity configuration and the entity subtypes. We've added here capabilities to better document your configured flows, also to be able to enable and disable individual steps within an entity flow. We've added better permission checks for incoming transports so that users can only apply transports if they have the permissions in the target system to modify or create certain master data objects. We've generally improved the navigation and the interaction with the entity tree, added the ability to simply double-click entities rather than using the context menu. And we've also added some additional user preferences around how integration solution flows are displayed. And then finally, in the Map Table Manager app, we have added full text search capability so that you can more easily find certain values in your map tables and across all map tables. So let me hop right into the platform and show you some of these enhancements on the system, starting with the Map Table Manager. So here we do have now the ability to search across all. So I have a little search box on the top right, entering a search text. We'll find all tables that contain this search term. So when I now open the table, it will show me those rows containing the search term also. So you see here, 4 rows were found in this particular table. Simple full text search across the content in all those tables. Let me then hop over to the Master Data Navigator and show you some of the enhancements here. I mentioned new user preference around the integration solution. So it lets you pick whether you prefer the graphical flow editor or you prefer the standard form editor, and make that your default for opening entities in the Navigator. So going into the Navigator and the entity tree, I mentioned we can also just simply double-click entities now rather than having to right-click and edit. We'll just double-click to open the entity itself. Just to compare, so the single click will open the entity and its content, for example, the process group, and the double click will allow you to edit the particular entity that you've selected in the tree. So opening up one of these entities, I want to highlight the new documentation capabilities. We've organized this now here on the right-hand side a little bit differently. So you see now you have these 4 buttons for administration, for the general settings, for the entity related contacts, and for the entity documentation. So this cleans up the view a little bit more. So the general area that we had is now a bit smaller and more organized with these buttons. And when I pick now a particular step in my flow, I can click on the documentation button and change the display name and also add a description to each individual step. So display name, for example, rather than looking at simple content extractor, I might want to explain or document here what is actually being extracted. For example, a timer name and a timer setting. So I could say extract timer settings. So rather than now seeing the default name in the flow, I will see the custom name that I picked here now. On the right-hand side, you still see the default name plus your own name. So if you click on documentation to hide the 2 fields, you will see this in the little title here, and can basically use the button to show and hide the entry fields. Description is currently basically a free text that can be used to further explain or document an individual step. Where this becomes even more helpful, of course, are things like a sub-process, that would basically show always as sub-process without further information here. So now I can document these individual steps much better and for other users more clearly. So for example, persist, track ID, oops. And then I could say here, persist file name, things like that. So I can use this to really document my flow now much more clearly. You also see the ability now to activate and deactivate individual steps within the flow. So from going initially from the extract step, which is currently active, I have these 2 sub-process steps that are marked as inactive. So this allows me to deactivate simple steps without actually losing the configuration and just temporarily disabling those. This obviously is helpful for testing, also maybe for production support when maybe you want to avoid sending data out to a particular partner for a while, like a carbon copy, and you can disable that step rather than deleting it from your flow. So let me save this configuration. So in the I mentioned also that we have now a new app for the process monitor. We call this now the process monitor dashboard. This app icon resides in the general logical system independent area. So you see it's not part of the logical systems that we have on this BIS server. Rather, it sits independently. When I open the app, I now see a dashboard for all logical systems and process counts across the different process states. So a simple view currently, just to give you an insight of what is happening on each logical system, how many failed or interrupted processes do we have in total in the current environment. So from here, I can now jump out into a particular logical system. If I click on 000, for example, it will then open up the process monitor for that particular logical system directly into also the Insights dashboard. Ulf, you see any questions so far to the few demo sections that were shown? Yes.
Yeah, there were more of a comments, and that was before, not this part of the demo, but where you started. There were a few comments. There was a way to, if there is a way to save, maybe you can go back to the where you started to do the first demo, so to say. If it's a way to save the arrangements of column and then have some kind of favorite view, so to say, maybe it's more of a comment. And the other one was also related to the part where if there's a way to or maybe more of a comment if to copy individual parts of a process, set the properties part, so to say, and then from one entity to another. I don't know, does it make sense to you what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. The ability
it's more of a comment type thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, ability to copy parts of a process from one entity to another is currently not available, but we have seen this as a enhancement proposal a few times. So we'll have to determine if and how feasible that is. And I believe the column order is saved with the favorites, if I'm not completely mistaken. I believe if you change the column ordering, it can or it is saved for each individual search favorite, I believe, currently.
Okay.
So yeah, there are some abilities to do that. If there's more detailed requirements that you have, or
we can follow up separately.
Yeah. Certainly follow up, please. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a documentation related question as well, but maybe you can just address that in general, documentation around this, and then also if that's also available for example, B2B solutions, the B2B solution, or is that it was more a comment around documentation as well.
Yeah, I have it is available also for the B2B solution, the documentation feature. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, here we go. Now people woke up. So we have another one related to functionality. I read here, should process monitor open new tabs per open line, ? And then this person has been working around and kind of noticed that when you go into certain details, it's more usability, I guess, around process monitor in general. Maybe you can elaborate or emphasize around that, and I hope this makes sense as well. The first question was, should process monitor open new tabs per opened line? And if it doesn't make sense, we will get back to the person who asked. and then you can move on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand completely what is meant here. I think there's still a possibility to open new tabs from the context menu.
Okay. Okay. Let's let's move on, and we will always. Yeah. Okay. I hope that is. Let's move on.
Sure. Yeah, what else have we planned for changing our apps and improving based on your feedback, which we're always glad to have. So if you feel like your feedback or your questions were not fully answered, please feel free to reach out again after the webinar as well. We can certainly have a more in detailed discussion about certain improvements. Absolutely. For the log viewer app, we are working on some enhancements around file handling and searching over multiple instances. So especially for distributed systems with many engines, we want to be able to use the log viewer to quickly find and filter across all instances directly from the app. For the master data navigator, we're also making more enhancements around viewing data across many logical systems to aid those of you that use the logical system functionality a lot to group processing and data by, let's say, business units and so on. So this has also a focus right now to improve the handling here. For the process monitor app, we want to also add pagination support to make it easier to work with large amounts of processes, large set of search results, and then to be able to apply operations, restart or retry functionality across all those processes.
Since we are, API, yeah, sorry, please finish this part, and I have another thing. But sorry, go ahead. Sorry, there was a lot of questions in the beginning today, so sorry about that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah. Yeah, for the API monitoring, we're also making enhancements around the monitoring wizard, similar to how we enhanced process monitoring. So allowing searches to be auto-completed and using certain functionality to assist the user in formulating the search queries. What else have we accomplished in our integration capabilities? We have released a few enhancements around the batch queue processing. We're supporting here the so-called multi-part attachments so that the content of a batch queue can be processed as a single logical attachment consisting of multi-parts and basically then processed by the adapters and converter that support these multi-parts as well. In the API management, we've added a gateway policy to trace the payload bodies, so that allows you to view and inspect the payload request, payload in the request or in the response more easily. We've made some enhancements in the Kafka client to manage the Confluent schema registries. If you're working with those, you're probably already aware. I'm sure this is a customer-based enhancement. We've made some improvements also in the file transfer server to extend the monitoring information and just give more information and details on what is flowing in and out of the transfer server. And finally, for the HTTP controller and client, we added additional logging for the TLS session so that it's more easily visible what TLS version and ciphers are used for ingoing and outgoing connections. Let me hop over back to our demo system. I wanted to show a few more enhancements now in the process monitor. So we've seen now we have the ability to open up a dashboard to see all of our logical systems. So when we work within one of those logical systems, just made a lot of little quality of life enhancements. Starting with the search wizard, it is now easier to search for certain status types in the search wizard. We have a list now of all the basically available status types. We can pick and choose those easily and search for a number of different statuses quickly, right? So for example, failed, stopped after error, some of the typical status values. So we can pick multiple statuses here, search, which will give us every process in one of these states. So this also goes hand in hand with what I mentioned, the auto completion for certain status and search fields. For example, under the process, we can now pick every facet of the available process templates to search for, like file system event. We can pick also by initiator. So we've added the facets here into the search drop down, so you can easily pick and choose what you're looking for. So again, if I search now, it will create the search terms here to find what has, for example, failed or was stopped after error. I can also go back and remove some of these filters from here. So I keep just the filter on the process template and will then get the result list for those. So the wizard helps me to create those search filters quickly, and I can also use the little search bar up top here to then I can remove some of those filters. Specifically for the file size, that was requested a few times. We've added the initiator file size allows us also now to work with greater than or less than, and also a between operator, so that I can search for certain files that came into the environment based on their file size. So the file size is tracked specifically as a column here, the initiator file size in bytes. So I can search now based on the numeric value for this field. You may have also seen that we also allow searching for the negative value now. So not just equals, but also not equals is available now as an operator. So I can search for everything that is not coming from a file system event. So again, simple search, it will create my search term here. So you see when you, let's say, might be more experienced, you can enter this type of search query directly in the search bar with the keyword not, and this will execute the search against all processes not coming from this particular template. And then finally, we see below also the row count that I mentioned earlier. So we're showing here 1,000 records. The total result is 1491. So currently the pagination is not available yet, but once it becomes available, we will allow you then to step through page by page through all of the search results that were found here on this particular query. So finally, let me connect the documentation feature of the Navigator also with the process monitor. We've seen this here. I added documentation for a particular entity. Let me open that again. Remember, we had our extract timer settings, and then we also had 2 steps in here that were actually inactive. Just wanted to look for this particular entity now. So I'm taking the entity name, going back to the process monitor, searching for that particular flow. So when I open this now, what we see here is the documentation is provided here also in the monitor. So the standard activity name plus the custom name that I entered in the Navigator is displayed. And additionally, I also see the 2 steps that were deactivated in my flow here in the monitor details with a particular icon denoting that they're inactive. So I still see them in the flow details, but they're not actually being executed, right? So for, let's say, debug and tracing perspective, it is helpful to see those. That reminds me, yep, there are 2 steps in here, but both of those are inactive and not actually executed. So the documentation available in the Navigator, and especially the custom caption that you can enter there, is now also available then in the monitor and displayed next to the standard activity name. Ulf, do you see any further questions for the?
Yes, we have a few. So maybe you should go back to where you were before you got into this part, so to say. There was a question related to the process monitor part. So the first one is if it's now fixed that when the user opens the process with the process inspector in the process, will that be in a new tab, or are you with me on the question? It was the previous part of the demo where you were. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were in a.
No, that's fine. I mean, I will take the questions regarding process monitor. I'm not sure what fix that might be. It would probably be helpful to check if you had this reported as an issue to follow up on that specifically. I'm not aware what this refers to.
It's a matter of right-click on the process and then get that into the process inspector. I think you were on the previous. Yeah, there was more details previously. If not, and if there was a specific request, maybe we can get back. It's good to get questions, though. So that's good.
Yeah, no, definitely. Those questions seem to be very particular operations issues that you've apparently encountered using the apps. I'm not aware of those in detail.
Okay.
I would happily take this as a separate discussion. If you have a contact that you work with regularly, please also reach out to them to make sure that we track this. So that we better understand in what direction you're looking for and what issues you're encountering in your daily operations.
So that's something we will follow up and make sure of that if it's something that is wrong and we should fix, we will fix it, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point too. But then there's another one. I'm trying to understand. That was related to. It was previously, and maybe more related to monitor and dashboard. I think you were part earlier, was part more of detailed dashboard. Maybe in general, elaborate on. You with me?
Sorry, was there a question?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I didn't. It was related to monitor dashboard. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you mean the insights dashboard?
Maybe just to make sure, maybe just elaborate a little bit more on the usage, if that was the question.
Yeah, I mean, generally these dashboards are available. You may need a particular role or permission to get this view, but they are definitely available.
It's role based, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the question was kind of related to. So maybe it's more of a confirmation in that case. I think. Let's see, a lot of details here. There was one more related to process monitor. And maybe that was also specific. Maybe there's been some changes that have been requested specifically. I suggest that we, for now, let's continue to make sure of that we manage the rest of the content, and then we can always get back. So.
Sure. Yeah.
And if not, we will always get back to the person who asked. So.
Sounds good. All right. Let me talk about what we are planning further for the integration capabilities. We have some enhancements on the way in the PDF composer, primarily coming out of the e-invoicing requirements. So being able to transform PDF A1 into PDF A3, embedding data or files as attachments into a PDF. Those are requirements, as I said, out of the e-invoicing scenarios, and we're improving the handling here and making it easier to produce those standards compliant PDF documents. We're also adding a complementary to the WebSocket server. We're adding a WebSocket client, and a requirement specifically from the energy market, but certainly also useful in other integration scenarios. We're adding additional integrations into HashiCorp walls for credentials to allow you to store your credentials safely in, let's say, company-wide credential store. What have we released in terms of technology advantage and improvements? As always, we've shipping latest Java runtime, Java version 21 from Azul. These are now available in also the version 6.7.178 revision 2. And then all quarterlies from 182 onwards. In the platform, we have added support for PostgreSQL 18. So that's generally available and also now supported in BIS. We've also added and support for the AWS enhanced JDBC wrapper for PostgreSQL, so that you can make use of the AWS specific database integration here. We've planned more improvements in this area, also for Azure deployments with PostgreSQL. We've seen here often the need for Microsoft Entra ID authentication. So this is not for the Microsoft SQL Server deployed in Azure, but here it is PostgreSQL deployed in Azure. We're currently evaluating also options to integrate the API gateway with a reduced footprint into existing BIS systems, so minimizing the gateway and making it more easily rolled out in your environment. We're planning further enhancements around smart retry to better configure the check intervals and also the information that is contained in the notifications, so to make it easier to monitor and resolve issues around smart retry and partner connectivity. In the area of operational cost reduction, we have released some enhancements, particularly the ability now to delete logical systems, currently via the BIS client as a client command. So this allows you to remove the logical system and all its related master data from the environment. We've also improved the handling of database index collisions during setup and updates to make this a more seamless process. Generally improved performance and stability of the database restore for very large database backups. The database size keeps increasing, and especially in large cloud deployments with many logical systems, we end up with very large backups that, of course, for restoring, we need to make sure that the restore is performed quickly and in a robust way. Similarly, we wanted to reduce the size of the support agent zip files that you can extract when you report an issue to our service desk. We've added here the ability to limit the time range of the support zip file so that it is reduced in size and actually just covers the relevant time range when the issue occurred, rather than the full time range of your BIS uptime that may produce a much larger output and is harder to handle. What else have we planned around this topic of operational cost reduction? We've added an option, or we are adding an option to disable the payload storage in the API gateway, so that this becomes even smaller footprint and improves the performance. So that payload is basically just streamed through the gateway and not actually persisted. We are adding the ability to then migrate a logical system tenant from one system to another system, or also from one logical system to another, so that we can move tenant data around more easily, maybe from on-premise to the cloud or vice versa, and aid migrations here with additional automation. Finally, in the area of our deployment models, what have we released here? We've made some enhancements around the virtual file system index to store that in data store, and also added some flexibility around the adapter configuration to make this more seamless again, and also allow automation more easily. In the process engines, we're finally reaching a point where we can process data in a stateless way, so that an individual process engine does not hold state locally, but rather replace all that in a distributed fashion. So that allows us also to add and remove process engines on the fly much more easily. This also goes over to what we have still planned in around the Kubernetes and cloud support. So particularly the process engine as a stateless instance now allows us again to support dynamic and elastic scaling much more easily. So another, let's say, check mark on the long road to fully enable a complete dynamic and elastic scaling model across all of our BIS modules and different parts of the platform and all the individual pieces that go along here. We're continuing also to working on application and service as code models, and we're still again working on evaluating new cloud native database variants and all their different deployment models. This again goes to what I said earlier, where we are adding features to better support rollout of Azure PostgreSQL or Azure SQL Server, and similarly in other clouds, the corresponding variants here. Yeah, any further questions, Ulf, that you have now on the list? And I said, if you don't feel like you've not gotten all the answers today or in this session, we're happy to take offline questions through email and further understand your need or your struggles.
I think, sorry, Chris. Yeah, I think we're good for now. And I also been communicating with the participants in parallel here. So I think we have answered everything. But as you mentioned, we will definitely follow up individually to make sure that we cover things. No, I think overall good. And it leaves us with a few more minutes that we can share a little bit of some other news. So let's do that.
Hand it back to you.
Yeah. So maybe we move forward. During 2025, we started to evolve the business integration suite. And I know that I can see on the participant list that some of you may have already been exposed to this in various, maybe a workshop or a client event or another activity. You know, we typically do a lot of events and on-site activities globally, one way or the other. So now we felt it was also important to start to communicate this to this group and as part of these webcasts. So of course, you know, it's all about preserving the core that you have built, you know, being the BIS users and the BIS, you know, the BIS usage that you have. And moving forward for the next webcast as well, we will start to introduce the enhancements and the evolved business integration suites. There's one component module area referred to as BIS Hub, where we have spent and we have implemented and put together two kind of areas. One area that is related to design and management and you know, put together integration flows in a specific way, you know, moving. We always look at improving user experience and what have you. And obviously, given the industry trends that are going on, AI, it's also important to see where and how it makes sense to introduce that also in the business integration suite. There's another side of this as well. It's and you may know that some of you are, I think, using this as well. We also have, you know, packaged integration services, typical e-invoicing and others, but that's also part of BIS Hub. So I will not say more than that right now. It's just a matter to give you and share what's coming. And the another new area is that we're also looking at putting together different parts, different type of services, also that long term can also include maybe some AI related functionality, and it's all a matter of serving you when and if you need when it comes to the business integration suite and how you're using this. So I will not be more detailed than this. This is obviously part of the material that you will get.